Welcome. Today I would love to show you all books because I have a lot of them. These are just the ones that I really recommend right now. Ones that I'm enjoying. Some are longer than others. So I'm probably gonna go from about shortest to longest, I think. Because I think that's how a lot of people would like to go about this. And I also get to talk about the fun ones first. Generally, I get to impress you guys early on. But let's start with something fun. Let's start with something cool, fun. Paradise Kiss by Ayazawa. This is the only manga on this list. I am yet to read that one with the girl that's in it's all pink with the crocodile. I really want to read that one though. Because people write papers on that. This one is super self-indulgent. I watched the anime Nana, and then I was like, I need more. So I did research on the author of the manga and eventually writer of the anime. He was like, I'll go ahead and I'll find other stuff. And this is the only other thing I could find on YouTube to watch. So I fell in love with it so much because I love fashion so much. And I begged my parents for this book for Christmas. And fair warning, for people who are younger and love reading, because I feel like there's genuinely a lot of kids who love reading out there. This book is not for you. It is a romance. It is kind of josei, maybe shoujo, but predominantly josei. So, manga geared at teenagers and young women. And it has romance, but it just handles more mature topics than something an 11 or 12-year-old could be reading. The youngest I would recommend reading this is 13. But I really appreciated this book because it has trans women in it. And when you are looking for fashion, and you are looking for manga especially, just manga in general, there's not a ton of respectful trans women representation. Like all of the representation I see for trans women in manga is generally a bit more leaning on the edge of cross-dressers and transvestites, and it's meant to make them out to be somewhat comical and hypersexual, and I don't appreciate that. But in this book, that's not the case. Oh my gosh, what is her name? It's been a moment. But she's beautiful. I'm looking now, and I'm not doing a good job at finding it. Anyways, exposing myself here, they kiss a lot in this book. George and, how the hell am I forgetting everybody's names? Yukari. George and Yukari is not, everybody's relationships are not the healthiest. By a mile. Yukari's not happy at home, but George is very much so free-spirited because he's not required to live up to expectation. and he pulls Yukari into believing that she doesn't need her parents either, and it's a very divisive topic for me, like, or conflicting topic for me as somebody who does have generally strict parents, but also kind of can reach these expectations. But the version my father bought me for Christmas came with some full color sketches, or like full color prints of some of the art. And this is the only version of this book, so this is the entire series that was published, and it was all published in a magazine called Zipper, I believe. And there's even like a little part in the back where it's like all just where it's all the characters speaking to, like, it's all funny cute doodles of the characters speaking about the author, and I think that's really fun. And like also talking about the like fan sites that her work developed. Also, how are you 5'7"? I'm 5'3", and I'm sad that I'm not 5'7". Okay. There is sexual content. Beware. There is not the healthiest relationships, but Miwako is my baby. Miwako is my baby, and a lot of people find her relatable, especially people who already have read Nana, especially people who've already gone and read, or like seen the anime, like blah blah blah. If you're in circles where this is a book you would know about, you're more than likely to relate to some of the situations in this book, or at least to the way characters react to said situations. Beautiful book. Ayazawa, I love you and your work. Manga kills mangakas, whatever. Okay. I'm just realizing that like the first 3 picks of this are all Asian. So I'm gonna change up the order a little bit. But this is the shortest, despite being the thickest, because it is my only manga on the list. It is my only comic on the list. Comics take me a lot shorter of a time to read, even though I'm appreciating all the art. And especially if you split this up into like books, like chapters, which I believe there would be 12. It'll take you a short amount of time. Cult classic. This thing is beat the hell up because it got wet in my backpack. Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto changed my life forever. I'd like to thank my friend Luke, who I think, oh my god, it's not Big Chungus. It's not. And it's not Bunt Chugly either. That's an arcane Twitter account. Oh my god. Whatever. I'll put his Instagram up because he makes art and is incredible. But my friend recommended this book to me at a pre-college program that I attended. And I was kind of tweaking. I was in like my femcel era. I do not regret this era more than ever. Like now more than ever, I regret that era so much because it does have effect on me to this day with my mental health. But he gave me this book, and recommendation, and I read it on my phone via a botched scan from Oceans of PDF, and I fell in love with it so much, despite the fact that it was like so weirdly formatted, that I went and I purchased the book for myself. descriptive writing in this is incredible. I found this book felt like the kind of weather that I'm dealing with right now, where it's like warm. It's like a good 65 out right now, and it's sunny and it's calm, but it's also like lazy in a way. And I really appreciated that feeling, because that's not a feeling you would associate with grief, but this book is very much about grief, and it's an important book to me. I was not going through the death of a family member or the death of a friend or anything like that, but people who know me know I was struggling at the time when I first discovered this book, and it really did have a positive impact on me. It did make me think a lot about the effect of death on loved ones and what it would feel like to be alone. And it gives me hope. Also, ironically, more decent trans women representation. In this case, it does deal with the fact that she is like a cross dresser, like not the main character, but another side character, and it's quite fleshed out. And it is really important to show how sometimes our motherly figures are not ordinary ones and don't follow the general societal expectations for a mother, but still succeed phenomenally in making you feel loved. So going from that note, this is one of the only books, this is the only book on this list other than one I may disclude, considering this video is already 12 minutes long. But Orbiting Jupiter. I had to read this for school in freshman year, and it's quite short. Quite short. And it's about true love, and it's about foster care and abusive family dynamics, but also how love can be true but still not be the best under the best circumstances, and it's deeply entwined with trauma and how much trauma people in juvenile detention centers face, because one of the characters in this book does go to a juvenile detention center, and I sobbed throughout this entire book, because, and I'm gonna just read the back for this one because I just think the back's really well written. When Jack meets his new foster brother, he already knows 3 things about him. Joseph almost killed a teacher. He was incarcerated at a place called Stone Mountain. And he has a daughter. Her name is Jupiter, and he has never seen her. What Jack doesn't know at first is how desperate Joseph is to find his baby girl, or how urgently he, Jack, will want to help. But the past can't be shaken off. Even as new bonds form, old wounds reopen. The search for Jupiter demands more from Jack than he can imagine. I had never seen such raw love for a child from what is practically another child, in a book ever. Like ever. This book made me understand how teenagers end up pregnant. And it also made me think about how true love isn't always just the person we fall in love with, but the people that they bring us towards. And I recommend it, obviously. I read this during the winter as well, which I think is something to keep in mind, is reading this when all of the trees are gray and it's wet, or it's cold and it's windy, adds to the atmosphere of this. You should be miserable. You should already be a little bit when you read this. I think you shouldn't be feeling your best when you read this, and I think it's more impactful that way. And I think people don't feel their best in the winter. So, this is a good summer book, though, let me tell you. Heaven by Mieko Kawakami. I read this right before I read Kitchen. And it's a story about bullying. And it's a story about love, again, because I love books with a good love plot where love isn't the plot. Where like love is a thing happening at the same time as everything else, instead of like kind of like a plot device. And I think that this book is great. It's won a couple awards, I believe. Yes, International Booker Prize, I think. Yes, it was a finalist. And I have things highlighted in this book, actually. Because I was tweaking. But they write letters to each other. These people are both severely bullied. And it made me think about how I have faced bullying, although not nearly to the extent of these characters. And I really managed to relate without being able to insert myself. And it is like, it doesn't end in a satisfying way. And I think that if you like books that end in creative ways, or ways that make you think, you'll really love this. Okay. We're getting long. This took me longer to finish than Orbiting Jupiter, by the way, even though I believe Orbiting Jupiter is technically longer. I just it's a little bit of a slower trip than Orbiting Jupiter. Like, at least text size for Orbiting Jupiter is significantly larger than text size in Heaven. But I do want to read more of Mieko Kawakami's books. If You Could See the Sun and Liang. This is more like these two are more like your YA fictions. You could definitely be like 13 and own this if you have a decent reading level. And I really did expect this to be more philosophical than it was, which is kind of why I enjoyed it. It was because it was easier than some of the previously mentioned books. This is, I believe, a debut novel for Anne. And it's about a girl who attends an international boarding school on scholarship. So she's surrounded by people who are significantly richer than she is. But she is still like a top student. It's a very relatable thing, given I lived in Kazakhstan for 5 years while my parents taught there, and I attended an international school where I didn't have to pay tuition, but if I would have had to pay tuition at the same rate that some of these students were paying, I don't know if I could have gone there. So that aspect and also the bright student aspect are things that I found relatable with Anne. But I found that Anne's really just a good character, and there is a romance plot, and it is blatantly obvious, and it is so fun. And I thought that the invisibility gimmick that she has is really interesting, and it really adds to the story, and it gets a little bit unbelievable, but sometimes books are about suspending disbelief, and books are about having fun and thinking a little bit, but like, and not thinking so much that it makes your head hurt and makes you sad. And this is it's a good one if you want to think, but also want to be a little bit more cheerful. And then Heaven or Kitchen or Orbiting Jupiter. Although I would say Kitchen is probably the happiest out of those. Fun. The only sequel on this list. The House in Many Ways. Diana Wynne Jones also wrote Howl's Moving Castle, which is why I liked this book so much. Was because I loved Howl's Moving Castle, but I only ever borrowed it from my school library and listened to it on Audible. But House in Many Ways really is a great expansion on the universe Diana is in. I cannot say the same thing about the other book that she released for this series as a prequel to Howl's Moving Castle, but I really liked the sequel because we do see Sophie and Howl, but they are not our main characters, and it's like you get to see them, and it's nice to revisit those characters in their futures. But Charmaine is likable because she has no idea what the hell she's doing. I love to see a spoiled brat learn to be less of a spoiled brat. And it has that Ghibli-esque doing chores feeling to it while being like really grumpy at the same time in a funny way. The boy that she befriends is cool. He's cool. I like him. I think it's funny that he's like, you don't know how to do laundry? Like, bitch, go do the laundry. Because me too, girl. I need to do my laundry. But it's also, there's a lot of like, there's a little bit of political thinking. And I think that's fun. And I think that the way Diana wrote the how the magic of the world operates is incredible. The fact that Charmaine is like visiting her grandfather or like who's like this wizard, but nobody talks about it because like magic is like in this area of the world. But like her grandfather did so much for how magic works to the point where there's like a little thing where it's like a man with really terrible handwriting was like, I love your work. I'm trying to make it all come out of one door. And that person is Howl. Made me laugh. Howl is such a man-child. Yeah. House in Many Ways. Super fun sequel. But I will say, if you're like, oh, I love the movie, I'll go read the book I'll go read the book and treat it like it's a movie sequel. No. Go read Howl's Moving Castle and then read this. Because It will not make sense otherwise, I fear. Both have great politics, though. Historical fiction. Only historical fiction on the list. I love historical fiction. I love political stuff occasionally. I read this for school. I'm gonna be brief about this because I read this in 8th grade, which is insane given, like, how freaking long this book is. If you read the epilogue, which of course you're gonna read the epilogue, never don't read the epilogue, because I'm pretty sure, like, it's The Handmaid's Tale or something like that. I haven't read it yet. That, like, the epilogue changes everything about the book. But yeah, it's a long ass 444 pages. And it's slow, but it handles like Indian training schools, like Indian schools where Native Americans were sent to be taught how to behave in society, which is a terrible thing that happened in the 30s. There was so much child abuse, child neglect, child sexual abuse. There was so much money laundering going on as well. It's awful. But 2 brothers go and escape this school, and they, like, are just trying to find family. And they do find family, and they find out things about their family that they never expected to know, and they make new family along the way. There's a little bit of, like, sort of miracle working in this book, and I really do appreciate the, like, religious undertone. Some people are like, oh, I don't know how I feel about there being real miracles in my book that's meant to be historical fiction. But, like, it is important to acknowledge that there are things we don't have answers for, and that miracles, I believe at least, can happen. But it's a good adventure as well. They are all on adventure. They're on an adventure. They're going down the Mississippi River. It's incredible. It's calm. It's calm predominantly. They meet a lot of people along the way. Yeah. It's a great little glimpse into the lives of so many people during the Great Depression. And brings light to a lot of what was happening at the time that not everybody wants to focus on. Even we talk about the market crashing, we talk about the Indian correctional facilities, we talk about everything like that, but we spend like 10 minutes on each topic, like, you got a test on Tuesday, you know? So these were all of the books that I had for you today. I do not know how to end this other than I hope you at least give one of them a try. My number 1 recommendation on this list, out of this entire list, is Kitchen. It's a cult classic, genuinely. Everybody I've ever heard mention Kitchen is obsessed with Kitchen. Anybody who's ever seen me in a bookstore holding that book, or has ever heard me mention it, immediately lights up and is like, oh my god, you've read Kitchen? I love Banana Yoshimoto. Which is, by the way, crazy pen name. But thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, maybe? Mayhaps. I'll talk about more books, maybe. I really wanted to do a series of just books I've read for school. I think that would be fun. If it was like, I read this for school. and I really hated it. I read this for school and I really liked it. And we all discover books that I've read for school through that. So yeah, see ya!